In the prince's chamber, he was diligently working to finish his oil painting, a project he had been laboring over for a long time. The reason for the painting's prolonged duration was the challenging and costly acquisition of purple paints. The labor-intensive and expensive process of creating these paints rendered the color exclusive to the affluent. He had positioned his canvas facing the window. Although the room was dimly lit by a feeble candlelight, the magnificent silvery gray moon standing directly opposite took over the task of illuminating the room. Influenced by one of his recurring dreams, Aaron was attempting to bring this dream to life through his painting. Despite being only 7 years old, he was quite talented in painting. He was attempting to depict armies battling at the foot of an erupting volcano, using a palette rich in purple tones. Although talented, he was unable to fully capture his imagination in the painting. Aaron was a handsome boy with fair skin of ideal height for his age and, for now, had black hair. Compared to those around him, he was quite quick-witted, intelligent, and alert. However, he couldn't be said to be very strong. While Aaron was continuing with his painting, there was a knock at the door, followed by a confident voice calling out, "Your Excellency, dinner is ready. The king and queen are about to grace the meal with their presence. Your siblings are already waiting at the table. You should come down without keeping them waiting," said the voice, respectful yet firm. In response, Aaron simply said, "I'm coming." He quickly washed his hands in the basin beside him. The wet paint washed off easily, leaving hardly any trace. To himself, Aaron thought, "All clean. She surely won't scold me this time." He quickly changed his paint-splattered clothes, donned a dress with golden embroidery on white fabric, and stepped into the corridor. As the prince appeared, 2 soldiers waiting by the door and those on guard at the end of the corridor snapped to attention. The nursemaid who had called to him stood by the door, ready to accompany Aaron. As soon as Aaron emerged, the woman gave him a quick once-over and said briskly, "You are clean and properly dressed this time. Let's hurry, my lord." She was visibly flustered, yet Aaron seemed unaffected by her urgency. Despite her persistent suggestions to quicken his pace, she didn't seem to be succeeding. To Aaron, he was moving swiftly, but to the woman, he was considerably slow. The nursemaid thought to herself, "I'm going to be scolded again because of this boy." Her face was anxious and her mood soured. Noticing the troubled and displeased expression on her face, Aaron said, "Don't worry, Olya. I won't get you into trouble this time." The nursemaid did not respond to Aaron's words. They continued down through successive corridors, descending to the lower floors. As Aaron passed, the palace guards and servants stationed at each corridor entrance respectfully saluted and bowed. This was not a special treatment reserved for Aaron. In fact, within the royal family, he was the least favored. In this merciless world where power meant everything, Aaron was an anomaly, born without any magical ability. Even the most wretched slave possessed the talent to light a candle with magic. Yet Aaron, despite his powerful ancestors, lacked any wisdom. Although there were certain explainable probabilities for this, Aaron was unique in his race regarding this characteristic, and this difference was not seen in a positive light. Finally, the long journey to dinner was over. After the last door opened, Aaron entered a grand room. The room was adorned with golden yellow tables, candlesticks, silky curtains, specially crafted carpets, and a chandelier hanging from the ceiling, giving the room a glittering appearance. His nursemaid Olia entered the room, her head bowed at the doorway. Olia was inwardly praying, fearful of the queen's wrath. Aaron noticed Olia's demeanor and felt sorry for her. The king, queen, prince, and princesses had already started their meal. Nobody was waiting for Aaron. To himself, Aaron thought, what was the rush for? Upon seeing the arrivals, Queen Marie stood up angrily and scolded, "You're always late. You can't do anything right. You have no sense of time, always buried in your stupid paintings. And the only thing you need to do is come to dinner on time, which you can't even manage." Despite the frequent scoldings, Olia's face turned pale yet again. Aaron, accustomed to the anger and belittlement, thought, "Today is no different from yesterday," shrugged his shoulders and sat at the farthest corner of the table. Olia, with her head bowed, repeatedly apologized to the queen and left the room. She gave Aaron one last look and thought to herself, "And he said he wouldn't get me into trouble today," before exiting the room. The table was, as usual, filled to the brim with food. It was so laden that the color of the tablecloth was barely visible. One of the servants behind Aaron whispered the dishes to him and placed them on his plate. Meanwhile, Queen Marie, after Olia had left the room, sat down and began talking to herself, targeting Aaron. "This boy will amount to nothing. All he cares about is fun. He's falling behind his peers. He's even more useless than a sick peasant child," she said. This prompted the king, who was sitting beside her, to interject, "Enough! It's the same every day," thus diffusing the tension somewhat. Aaron, accustomed to these derogatory remarks, did not react much to these harsh words and focused on the delicacies on his plate. Aaron's sister Lisa was sitting to his right. Like her mother and 3 other siblings, Lisa had white, platinum-colored hair. She was Aaron's twin and was exceptionally fortunate in magic and combat, even considered the best among her peers. Teachers and those around her saw her as a prodigy. It seemed as though all the luck that Aaron lacked had been bestowed upon Lisa at birth. Lisa was very intelligent, like Aaron, but unlike him, she was full of self-confidence. A princess in every right, Lisa was the one who loved Aaron the most among his siblings. Their relationship went beyond the usual sibling bond, with Lisa treating Aaron with more care and affection, almost as if he were her younger brother. Despite feeling superior, she always treated Aaron kindly and affectionately. While everyone was focused on their meal, King Eric began to speak. As you all know, in a few months, Lisa and Aaron will be celebrating their 8th birthday. Kings, queens, and their children from our realm will be gracing this event with their presence. My dear family, please be mindful of your speeches, attitudes, and approaches. He took another sip of his wine before continuing. My father and I have put in much effort for centuries to bring our kingdom to this stature. With you, my children, and my beloved wife, we must all work together to expand our realm even further, finishing off the last few sips in his goblet. The queen and children at the table smiled and nodded in agreement with the king's words. Aaron, with a forced smile, joined in this concurrence. King Eric was nearing his 100th year, which was considered middle-aged in his race. Queen Marie was just over 150, still quite young by her people's standards. Aaron had 5 siblings. The eldest, like Aaron and the king, had black hair and fair skin. Aaron and his oldest brother Zeke had inherited their father's features, while the other siblings took after their mother's elegance and beauty. Nonetheless, this didn't make Aaron and Zeke any less handsome. They simply had different hair colors. As soon as Aaron finished his meal, a servant behind him offered a glass filled with a liquid the color of urine. Aaron grimaced and, holding his breath, downed the entire drink. This unpleasant liquid was Aaron's medicine. During her pregnancy with Lys and Aaron, Queen Marie had been poisoned by some separatists. After long and painful treatments, expensive and unique pills made by alchemists from faraway lands were brought in. Lys and Aaron were close to death before their time due to the poison affecting their mother. Even though Queen Marie wanted to administer the 2 antidotes to both Lys and Aaron, the king did not allow it and made Marie take the first one. The last remaining dose was given to Lisa, who was born a few minutes before Aaron. Although Aaron was left to die, he continued to live despite the effects of the poison, albeit as a sickly and weak individual.